10. Christy Giles. Christy Giles and Hilda Marcela Cabrales Orzola both died from drug overdoses in November of 2021. Christy was discovered unconscious and unresponsive, dumped outside the South Carolina hospital on November 13th. Shortly after doctors took her inside, she passed away, and 2 hours later, her friend Hilda was abandoned outside the Kaiser West Los Angeles hospital. And she died just over 10 days later after being stuck in a coma. Both these women were dropped off after a night of partying gone horribly wrong by 3 men in black face masks. When these men drove away from the hospitals, they had no license plates and nothing to properly identify them. According to the coroner's office, Christy died of multiple drug intoxication. She had been given a lethal dose of cocaine, fentanyl, ketamine, and GHB, and it was too much for her body to handle. The police investigation soon identified the killers as the police put together what happened that night. David Pierce, a Hollywood producer, was the one behind the death. He was already jailed in December of 2021 after he got caught doing something similar to another woman, although she didn't die. He's been charged with murder, along with D-list actor Brant Osborne. What happened was that the girls were at a warehouse party with David Pierce and his little entourage of pals. They went into Pierce's apartment, where Pierce and Brant purposely gave the girls way too many drugs so that they'd be easy to take advantage of. Then, when they died from overdoses, Pierce and Brant panicked and dropped their bodies at whichever hospitals were closest. 9. Taboo Nightclub and Lounge Shooting. On April 10, 2022, the Taboo Nightclub and Lounge in Cedar Rapids exploded in gunfire. It started just before 1:30 in the morning on a Sunday, and as the venue was hosting a 1990s theme party. Officers responded to calls of shots fired, people were rushing out of the club, and the whole place was in a state of panic. At the time, police were only aware of an unknown number of shooters who'd fired up a dozen shots, and there were as many as 150 people inside the club. 10 people ended up being injured, and 2 were left dead. The deceased were later identified as Michael Valentine and Nicole Owens. On the night of the actual shooting, the killer managed to slip out totally undetected, thanks to the panic he'd made. And now, killer Timothy Rush is facing 15 charges related to the shooting. When he went to court in May of 2022, he pleaded not guilty to the second-degree murder charge and waived his right to a speedy trial. Nicole Owens was his girlfriend and the mother of his child, and Timothy shot her in the face while she was trying to have a good time at the club. Then, seemingly gone crazy from killing his girlfriend, Timothy fired his weapon into a crowd of people. His accomplice was Dimion Walker, who also committed murder by firing his gun into the crowd and killing Michael Valentine. 8. Felicia Johnson. A man by the name of Chukwuebuka Nwobodo was recently charged with murder in connection to the horrible death of 24-year-old Felicia Johnson. Felicia vanished after she left her hotel in Houston on April 16, 2022. According to detectives with the Houston Police Department, Chukwuebuka killed Felicia soon afterward and then disposed of her body, a body which has yet to be discovered. Felicia reportedly went to Houston for a job interview. Unfortunately, the job interview didn't go very well, and she was left in a strange city with no job and no money. And so, she resorted to becoming a nighttime entertainer. She met Chukwuebuka on an adult website, and the pair agreed over Snapchat that he would pay Felicia $500 if she would go to his apartment and entertain him for the night. But when she arrived, he killed her. The police first arrested Chukwuebuka once they received information that he was the one who ordered Felicia's Uber, and that it was his apartment she was last seen going to. But there wasn't enough evidence to keep him locked in jail. This was despite the fact that police found pictures of dead bodies on his cell phone, and a history of extremely gruesome Google searches, such as "What does bleach do to blood?", "Most forested part of Houston," "How to be a serial killer," "How to get away with murder," and even "How to kill without getting caught." Clearly, he had just killed somebody. Now that the police have finally charged him with the crime, he's gone. They haven't found him or Felicia's body. 7. Shalonda Anderson. Shalonda Anderson was a mother to 3 young children. She also drove her car directly into a group of security guards outside of a club in Dallas, Texas. She was then gunned down by one of the security guards she had just hit with her car. It happened early on Saturday morning in June of 2022. 32-year-old Shalonda drove her car to the biggest strip club in the city, a place called XCT Cabaret Dallas, at around 5 o'clock in the morning. She drove straight into the group of security guards who were hanging out near the doors, pinning one of them, a female guard who was only 26, against another vehicle. The guard, even though she was squished between 2 solid pieces of metal, managed to pull out her gun and shoot through the windshield at Shalonda. The guard may have suffered multiple broken bones and needed to undergo surgery, but she still had the strength to fill Shalonda with bullets, and Shalonda died soon after. The XCT Cabaret Dallas is home to the tallest stripper pole in all of Texas. Shalonda had gone there with a group of friends only to be kicked out following a dispute over her tab. As the group was leaving the club, they were escorted by security who were described as being pushy. Then, Shalonda got into her car and, likely under the influence of quite a lot of alcohol, tried to get revenge by driving the security guards over. 6. Dead for 30 hours. Stacey Tierney died inside a place called Dreams Gentlemen's Club in Melbourne, Australia. Her death came after she was given a cocktail of dangerous drugs just before Christmas in 2016. She was a backpacker traveling in Australia, but originally a fitness instructor from Manchester. She had gone to Australia to travel and study nursing, but was running pretty low on funds. So she thought it would be a good experience to work at a gentleman's club. She told her friends that she didn't really like it, but the money was extremely helpful for her travels and her studying. Here's what happened the night of her killing. She walked into a private manager's lounge and never came out again. This is like a swanky private room in the gentleman's club where distinguished patrons can hang out behind closed doors. She was then given heroin, ecstasy, and cocaine. She died inside that room and was left there for 30 hours. By the time somebody finally called an ambulance, the room had already been deep cleaned and everybody was gone. She had quite literally been left to die. In the aftermath, no charges were filed, nobody was held liable. The case was never turned into a murder, and the only thing that happened was the owner of the club was given a small fine to pay for negligence. 5. Weak floorboards. In a suburb of Colorado, in the Denver area, a house party erupted in chaos. It was a huge party held in spring of 2022, with an estimated 100 teenagers jumping up and down on the floor, raving to music, and having a great time. It was actually the homeowners who let the teenagers come over to celebrate their 18-year-old grandson's birthday. But according to several of those at the party, more and more people kept showing up, and things got out of hand very quickly. And that was when, in the middle of all the dancing, the floor collapsed under everyone's weight, and nearly 100 teenagers fell into a pit of wooden shards and broken roof joists. The second floor simply collapsed inward, bringing the entire living room down into the basement. 3 people had to be taken to the hospital, one of them seriously injured. According to an eyewitness, one of the teens who broke their ankle, everyone could hear the floor snapping apart in the seconds leading up to it breaking. But there were too many people on the floor and everyone was too slow to react. 4. Left in a trunk. Nelson Ozu was left in a trunk for 2 days by a pair of men who pretended to be homosexuals so that they could gain access to Nelson's apartment and kill him. In the words of Nelson's sister, Vanessa Allen, he was vibrant, happy, and genuine. Nelson was also described as the life of the party and an all-around good person. He was a model. He was slowly moving up in his career. He was also an avid member of the gay party scene in the 1990s. He went to all the alternate clubs in Liverpool, the UK, and could be found out there every single weekend. It was on November 21st, 1996, that this would be his downfall. He was attending the She Club on Victoria Street when he was approached by two men who put on a charming act. They partied for a little bit, and then Nelson took them back to his apartment around 7:30 that night. The men turned out to be thieves who had picked Nelson as an easy target. After these men robbed Nelson, they covered his face in red cloth and stuffed him into a trunk in which he had no room to move at all. He wasn't discovered until 2 full days later by his mother and sister. Nelson had already been dead for quite some time. Because of the cloth the bandits had put over his face, he had choked on his own vomit and suffocated. 2 men were apprehended the day after his body was discovered, John Alexander and Carl Alker. They were both convicted of manslaughter and given life sentences. 3. Club promotion gone wrong. A British club promoter has been found guilty of beating his friend and Taekwondo world champion to death during a drunken brawl in Ibiza. His name is Mitchell Andrew Loveridge, and the drunken assault took place on July 18, 2018. Mitchell and his victim, Harry Kingsland, were vacationing in the party resort of San Antonio in Ibiza. 2 guys had gotten into a drunken fight in their apartment, and Harry tried to intervene and put an end to it. But Mitchell wanted to watch the fight unfold. So he knocked Harry unconscious with a single vicious blow to his head. Then, the court alleges Mitchell continued punching Harry in the face even after he was already unconscious and lying defenseless on the floor. Realizing he had just killed a man, Mitchell then jumped out the second-floor window, ditched the party, and tried to run away. Mitchell didn't get far as a barely clothed, tattooed British man on a Spanish island. He was arrested, and now he's looking at 25 years in jail. 2. Farrah Abraham. Farrah Abraham, the star of the hit MTV show Teen Mom, was charged with assault and battery after she got into a fight at a nightclub in Hollywood at the beginning of 2022. Farrah was partying, drinking, and started an argument with a security guard outside Grandmaster Records in LA. The reality TV personality slapped the security guard across the face when he asked her to leave, and she refused. And someone on the street then made a citizen's arrest. When the cops showed up and tried to take her to jail, she assaulted one of the officers and slapped him across the face too. Farrah was looking at 1 year in jail and a fine of up to $2,000. But in the end, nothing came of it, and now she's talking about suing the nightclub. She claims the security guard forced her to eat dirt, and that was why she slapped him across the face. She said she was attacked and beaten viciously, even though there doesn't appear to be any evidence that that's what happened. In reality, this was Farrah's first time getting in trouble on a night out. She was arrested in 2013 for drinking and driving, and she was arrested in 2018 for getting into a fight with a different security guard at a hotel in Beverly Hills. 1. Bad family business. Club 35, a gentleman's club where people go to party and watch women dance in the nude, was actually a lot worse than it appeared from the outside. This wasn't only a party joint, it was also an undercover brothel. It was a family-run prostitution ring disguised as adult entertainment. 5 members of the Acciardi family were arrested in 2021 for their role in running the illegal underground business, as well as one of the non-family employees. But here's the thing. It wasn't like a small family-run corner store. Their prostitution ring had already generated millions of dollars in revenue. This New Jersey club was hosting people from all over the country and participating in illegal human trafficking. Each member of the family has been charged with money laundering, promoting organized street crime, promoting prostitution, and a whole heap of other criminal offenses. And yeah, their club has since been shut down. Would you rather risk a deadly night at a club or stay home and party by yourself? Let us know in the comments, and thanks a lot for watching.